Hey guys, welcome. Muskie Road Rule Podcast, episode number 281. Guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for telling a friend. And thanks for subscribing because, we need it. Tonight's podcast is brought to you by Red October Baits. Guys, if you like throwing big rubber, if you like throwing any type of soft plastics, you got to check out Red October Baits. They make a ton of different ones. You can find them on Facebook. Do the Facebook, search, Red October Baits on Facebook. You might get a picture of Denzel Washington from the old movie, but you never know. But you want to get the tubes. I'm talking about the tubes. Although Denzel Washington is a good actor, he was good in Flight. I liked watching a drunk man fly a plane upside down. But it is a really good movie, too. Anyway, check out Red October Baits. They've got a ton of custom colors. You can find them at any quality muskie shops. Thorn Brothers, for example. Team Rhino. There's another one, but I said quality. Check them out. I think you're going to find something that you really, really like there. Go to Red October Baits on Facebook, and you'll like what you got to see. Also, shoot me a text. Guys, I love to get texts from people. I love to be told everything from this podcast is awesome and Die and Rot in Hell. All of them are welcome, and I have gotten them all. So check it out. Give me a text at 606-776-6729. Would love to hear from you. It's the Lungin Lures text line. Lungin Lures, makers of the 22 short, 22 long, 22 SS, the chubby, the big old 50 cal, the Alley Cat series of baits, and the spinners, the Nutbuster spinner, the original Lungin tail, and DC9, DC10, LunginLures.com. Text machine again is 606-776-6729. Guys, we have got a great, and women, I always say guys, but I mean, you know what I mean. We've got some awesome guests on here tonight, and Gus Mantey. It is...
What? Wait a second.
What? Gus,
Can we restart?
Gus, I heard a rumor. Are you Joe Booker's love child?
I mean, I do throw JBO once in a while.
Oh my God!
I might.
He had a tryst. He had a tryst with some gal of ill repute in Hurley one night, and I don't know. That was the rumor I heard, but I really, they're very unreliable sources. Let me tell you. One's my mother, so it's very unreliable sources here. But we have Gus Mantey on the phone. We have Clayton Spiess, and we have Peter Blicharz, all from the northeast Wisconsin area, up in the northwoods. The opener is coming up this weekend, Memorial Day weekend, for 2024. Guys, how you doing, and what's it look like up there?
Good.
Yeah?
Doing good.
Yeah. Clayton, how are you doing?
Oh, good.
Good. How's the boat? How's the boat situation?
As good as Clayton can be doing.
Why do we got to talk about the boat right away? Why can't we just...
I like to get it's better to rip a Band-Aid off instead of just barely pull it.
I'm getting a little experience of Gregg's life.
Oh, yeah. Just wait. As I always tell people, don't worry, it gets worse.
Right.
So for guys that don't know, Clayton, you were down here for the PMTT, and you had a bit of boat issues. It was it was more trailer issue.
Yeah.
Boat's going good, and so you had to get a new axle, huh?
Yeah.
So
which has been an absolute nightmare.
Are you kidding me? Dealing with Ranger, the North Star of boat companies, their trailer department is a nightmare. I swear, every time I call there, it's just some person. I'm assuming the janitor walks by the phone, it's ringing, and they just answer it because I get about as much done that way.
You know, if I actually went through the Ranger, I probably wouldn't have a boat trailer for another couple months. So I chose to go around Ranger and not work with them, and we'll see how that goes.
No, it'll go good. Waymeyer, not Wayfair, not the Kelly Clarkson app. Waymire is a awesome. You'll be good. I mean, I've been in that building, and it is, again, it's like the land of misfit toys. But they got everything in there. They'll get you. Who's going to fix it?
Aren't you going to fix it?
I can. I'm really good at it.
Oh no,
I'm good at it. Is Davey going to fix it?
I think David and I are going to put it on.
Nice. That is well, then that's a crack team right there. You'll be good. So is your boat still over at Davies?
It is. Might have to get tied up to your houseboat for a day or something like that, or somewhere on the water.
Oh my God! Yeah. Well, I'll let you
just float it out on cave and just hit spot lock. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I might rent you some water space. For a time, but I hope you get it fixed. I know all about Ranger trailer problems, and I've had many, and I'm sure I have more to come. It's just part of the deal. So, but you'll get it fixed. It's going to be great. It's going to be good as new. So, do you think you're going to get the fish opener?
That's a great question, because Waymire said 2 weeks, and that was Wednesday will be 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in Massachusetts right now, and
how's the beans?
The beans?
Yes. Isn't it Boston baked beans? Isn't that what's supposed to be something to eat? I don't know.
Maybe. I know they got really good seafood out here. But...
Are you in Boston? Where are you at?
Nah, I'm northwestern Massachusetts in the Berkshire Mountains.
Oh my!
They have some really good maple syrup out here.
Nice. Why are you there?
It's like a part-time gig that I do, some zip line work. I'm training college and high school kids to run zip line tours.
That would be something that you would never hear me say. If I'm on a zip line, the building is on fire. That is oh my God, I could see me on a zip line. I would get like my nose hairs caught in it. It would be terrible. Oh God, I would look like a total fuck up. It would be. So you're up there training zipline people?
Yeah.
From like, what are you zipping from?
Trees and from utility poles and decks up in the air and like up to a half mile long.
Oh my God, you're Tarzan.
Yeah.
I love this. I did not know about this. We'll come back to this.
I think Tony should get into ziplining.
Tony, when I think zipliners, I think Tony would definitely be. That's who I'd want to show up as my instructor. Him smoking, and just this is how you do it, buddy. You wrap it around here just like that. You stick your foot in here and oh God.
I bet if I put a bottle of Maker's Mark at the far end of the zip line, I could probably get him to go down it.
Oh my God! Could you imagine the momentum he would have going down that thing? The momentum have no problem by the time he stops. Oh God! I could see the George of the Jungle hitting the tree when he stops. God, you should see him one time. We were up in Eagle River, and Captain Dave, his old partner, used to dive and like scuba dive. And so Tony went scuba diving. You should have seen him in a wetsuit. Oh my God. That was oh God. It was form fitting. Oh God. They don't do a lot for the figure. And he went down there and he freaked out. He said, I don't know what the hell happened. I went down and there was Dave threw a bunch of fish food in his face and all the perch started eating it and it was like biting his face. He was you got to ask him about that story. He was not a good scuba diver. It was weird because you would think he was built for it. I mean, when I see him, I'm like, there's a man that does some exploring underwater.
There's a guy that could sink to the bottom of the mask on.
Yes, there's a man that I would trust to lead me on an expedition. Right there. Oh, so Gus, what about you? Are you ready for muskie fishing this weekend, or you just hanging out and patrolling for chicks?
I'm not yet. They don't show up until like the 4th of July up here.
Oh,
that's when I start patrolling. Right now it's just I've been scouting some new water and I'm really pumped for muskie opener. I've been able to get down south a couple times this year, which I usually never have.
Mm-hmm.
So I've scratched the itch a little bit,
mm-hmm.
but I've mainly been on the water for just smallmouth bass, and I'm about done with them. They're about bedding, and I'm just ready for muskies now.
Yeah. Have you caught any muskies smallmouth bass fishing with suics?
They they love rapalas and they love snapping them off.
Oh,
and,
well, there you go.
And we've seen our fair share actually in shallow, and it's like majority of them are pretty beat up right now in the last week or so, and then there's actually still some clean ones. So I'm not sure, but I've also been on some pretty deep, clear water. So
sure,
I'm sure it'd be different if I was somewhere shallower or a little warmer.
Mm-hmm. Well, what about you, Pete? Are you going to get out this weekend?
I am. I'm actually going to do my traditional. The last 4 years now. I think this will be 4 years. I've been going down and hanging down in the Green Bay area, chasing some big ones down there.
You going
so I'm
down
pretty
with
pumped to
Jared?
get down there and do that. Yeah, I think Jared's going to show up on Sunday. But I'm going to be fishing with my buddy Tim Lautenschlager down there in Green Bay on the tributaries and out on the bay on Saturday. But I've been up here chasing smallmouth and pike and walleyes and stuff, and it's just not musky fishing. But the water temps, at least I was on Eagle River this afternoon, and like catfish and cranberry, it was 63 to 65 degrees already. And I know that could definitely be superficial, but I mean, those fish should be well and done. And I side scanned a lot of the weed beds and stuff while I was just cruising around with the family this afternoon, having a couple of beverages, and it all looks like it's progressing very well. So I think it should be pretty awesome for a muskie bite this weekend.
Yeah. Gus?
Pete, I got a question quick for you.
This is my podcast.
Greg, hold on 1 second here.
Oh.
It's Gus's podcast. Hang on.
Well, I want to know, what was the clarity like? Because I was on the chain. I haven't been on the chain in a week and a half or so, and it was crystal clear, some of the cleanest I've seen it in the spring. Was it still really clear?
I can't say that it was. I don't know. I've been on the water there for so long, my entire life. So it's just kind of normal to me. Sometimes it's a little clearer than other times. So I think it was just kind of average for me. I didn't really, I didn't drop a bait in the water. I was just driving around with the family this afternoon, so I didn't get a real good read on the clarity. But it didn't look any it didn't pop the eyeballs out of my head and say it was really clear.
There was 2 weeks ago, I was on a spot where I'm oh, there's bottom, and then I look at my depth finder, and I was in 10 feet. I could see 10 feet down.
Whoa.
Catfish. Yeah. That's why I was is it still going to be like that? Or
can't say I've ever seen it that clear. That could be a new one for me.
It was calm and sunny, but I was kind of blown away.
Yeah. No, I didn't. I don't think it was that clear, but I mean, it's possible. I guess I wasn't paying that close attention to the clarity.
So,
all right, Greg, you're up.
I've had my hand up for 2 minutes.
All right, Greg, yes, you.
Thank you. Gus, you're on the real clear bodies of water, you said. What's the water temps out there?
A few days ago, the last I was on it was probably, I still saw some 54-degree temps, and warmest I saw was maybe 58.
Oh, okay.
I was just scouting some shallower water today, new lakes, but they're kind of, one was clear, one wasn't, and they're both relatively the same. And I saw the same thing as Peter saw. It was about 62 to 60. I had some superficial shallow temps of about 67 today.
Mm-hmm. Was it hot up there today?
It was mid-70s.
Oh, nice.
Sunny.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. Pretty nice.
It was 90 here. It was extremely warm. What was it ziplining today, Clayton?
It was cool and cloudy, probably 70 degrees or so, no wind.
Is that a good zip lining temp?
Yeah, it's good zip lining.
I like it windy when I zip line.
We're zipping over the Deerfield River, and maybe like it's like less than a foot deep, but I could see the bottom, and it was good clean there.
They got muskies?
I don't know.
I love a good zip lining day. That's a day. I go outside and look up in the air, sniff the air, just to like, ooh, it's a little chilly out. This is a good zip lining day.
Yeah, you would know, I'm sure.
I do. I know what to look for. For zip lining. How do you get into zip lining?
Great friend of mine that I grew up with, and I used to fish tournaments with way back in the day, like right in high school and just out of high school.
Did he fall out of trees a lot?
No, we didn't fall out of trees when we were fishing together, but when the whole economy tanked back in like '08 for like building and stuff like that, his uncle was the owner of like one of the first ever zipline companies in the U.S. And he's like, "Hey, why don't you come work for my uncle? Like, we're still busy." And so I basically dropped everything up north, and I went on a road trip doing zipline 16 years ago.
Oh my God, you're a carny. I love it.
Is that any different than a muskie gypsy, Greg?
No, God, no. Except I guarantee you the ziplining community probably makes more money and, doesn't. Yeah. Oh, there was a time in my life where I was judging my food by how long it had been on the roller in the gas station. What? That looks like a good one. So I know all about that, but all right, well, let's talk about muskie fishing. God damn it.
Enough of the crap.
Enough of this zipline stuff, although I will email you about this.
Okay.
Just because I want to get
conversation's not over.
No, it is not. I want to get my license. 'Cause I think I could be good at this. This weekend, so it seems like to me, or I'm just guessing that it's probably going to be a little like further along than normal. Is that what you guys are seeing?
I would think so.
Yeah.
Just by water temps and weed growth and stuff alone, like I think it will be. And like the muskie bite usually in spring correlates along with how the walleye bite progresses from the beginning of May. And it seemed like everything was further along than it normally is. So I would agree with that.
Sure. So let's say we got guys coming up this weekend. I'm going to ask all three of you. Guy coming up with his family. He's riding up, going to go fish the North Woods. I don't want the bullshit of, go fish a dark lake because they're warmer. Fuck that. All right. I want to know... if he's out there, give me a tactic. Each one of you give me a tactic. Can't be the same one. Give me a tactic for someone to do this weekend that you think is going to be good with the, whether it's clear or stained water. Give me a tactic. Gus, go.
All right.
Hurry up, Gus.
I would say if you're going out on opening weekend, let's just say you're going to, I would recommend going to a body water that you know. I wouldn't go to one that is just out of nowhere. You heard something about it and you never pre-fished it or scouted it ever. I would go to somewhere where you know really well, and I would take one lap around the lake, depending on the size, because I've found this May, at least, when just kind of cruising the shallows and smallmouth fishing and looking at weed growth, the fish are in very specific areas of the lake, and the wind kind of pushes them around. Like one lake I'll go to, and all of a sudden it seems like all of the life in the lake is on the northwest side of the lake. For whatever reason, the water was warmer a little bit. I would mark a lot more bait. That's where majority of like the smallmouth were, and that's where I would see some muskies cruising up shallow. So I would first kind of just find where you can just have the most bait, most life in the water, and then kind of go from there. I would say with the progression of the spawn, honestly, this actually could be a pretty good year of going to a shallow stained lake right away to probably get the ones that are most beyond the post-spawn stage, just because since I've been on some really clear water and seeing some beat-up muskies and some not beat-up muskies, that you wouldn't want to go to one of those lakes and have them be right directly in the spawn still a little bit. I know that's what we're going to do. I'm going to bounce to a bunch of small lakes this opener, and we're going to fish probably 3 lakes a day and just go until we find a good bite.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is a tactic.
Tactic?
Yeah, give me a tactic. That's what I want to know. Instead of going WWJD, what would Joe do? I want you to give me a tactic.
I mean, like bait presentation to get out there? Or
yeah. I mean, you're gonna go.
Hey,
out there.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, you're gonna go out there and throw cannonballs at them, or you gonna go out there and what are you gonna do?
Well, historically, every opening weekend, we always catch 1 or 2 fish on a single-bladed Beps. We're pretty much always going to roll one of those at first light and last light. That seems to be the best. And one of our other best producing baits, I would say, is ripping some sort of minnow bait, like a grandma or a crane or a slammer, something in the shallow water where you can kind of rip it pretty aggressively. We're probably going to be fishing pretty fast. I would say just fish those baits with sharp, aggressive snaps, and then kind of let it rise back up. And I would say probably for the minnow baits, more so target the shallow weeds or any green weeds, for that matter. Some of those minnow baits don't do well on rocks. I've knocked off some lips. Don't aggressively rip the minnow baits on the rocks.
Those are called mumblers if they don't have any lips. Mumblers.
I got a bunch of mumblers hanging up here that I'm looking at, and fallen soldiers.
Nice. All right, Pete, give me something.
Well, I mean, Gus kind of hit it on the head as far as like what I'm reaching for right now. I'll be a little more specific in that I'm this time of year, especially on this. I'm definitely going to look for stained water. I mean, I spent most of my time in the spring, and I usually do in the beginning of the season on like the 3 Lakes and the River chain, a little bit of the Sugar Camp chain too, which is stained water. It's going to be a little bit warmer. Those fish are going to be, I think, a little bit more active, especially this year. They're going to be out in the nicest weeds you can find. And I'm reaching for a minnow bait and probably a small single-bladed bucktail, or like double eights, even a showgirl or something like that. But the minnow bait, I'm reaching for a shallow raider, a baby shallow raider. I think that lip is a little more durable than like a jake or
WWJD.
Yeah. And something with some flash. Like I love their Prism series. So like Prism Perch, baby shallow raider is like my favorite one in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, my 3-year-old daughter is doing circles around me right now.
I thought that was Clayton ziplining.
And that I think that lip is a little bit stronger than like a grandma or a jake or something like that. Like I've bashed that thing in docks and rocks, and like I don't break the lips off of many of those. So you can get and because it's a square bill, that thing really, really walks, especially when you're getting aggressive with it and slashing. And you can almost work as a glide bait, but you know. It hangs really well, and that's my favorite bait in the spring for at least the first 2 weeks. So that's what I'm going for. Fresh weeds and slash that baby shallow raider as hard as you can and as aggressively as you can for as long as you can, because people get tired, and I don't know. It's hard to talk people into ripping as hard as I want them to, but it works.
Sure.
Definitely.
Sure. All right, Clayton, what about you? You may not be able to get out this weekend, but what's something that's always worked for you in the past?
Well, if the spring is as far along as what they're kind of saying and what I've noticed a little bit that I've been able to get out on the water so far and screw around, in the past few years, we've done really well on larger baits, upsizing big time. And we're looking for, obviously the fresh weeds again, probably generally sticking to the chains or maybe even up into the rivers a little bit with current. But I've done really well on like double pens really, even on opener. And then 10-inch jake, and larger size, like shallow rubber. Maybe not like blasting the rubber super fast like a summer pattern yet, but maybe like on like a using a shallow harnesses on like rag dogs or like ninja tubes and stuff, and just kind of keeping them a little bit high and slow, almost working them like a glide bait as like a surf bait or something. But we've done really well when we've had a really warm early spring. I don't know if it's that far along or not yet. I've also noticed, and I don't know if Peter or Gus, if you've seen any of them yet, but I've seen a couple mayflies. I don't know exactly where they came from, but that could be a sign that we could be into some sort of an open water bite right away. And if I had the chance to go out, if I won't be fishing the opening weekend up north, because if I get a chance to go to be in Green Bay as well, fishing the tributaries and out in the bay and stuff with some of our buddies down there. But if I was up north, I would probably be starting to search for an open water bite. If I got some people that are willing to go with me, that are willing to go look for that specific bite, and maybe not necessarily target small males that are still in the weeds, but look for those big females ready to eat that meat.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, that
sorry. I was going to add quick, Clayton, on the mayfly thing. That definitely could be right around the corner. I was just in Shawano with some buddies, and there was a giant hatch there, like the big hexes. Like, they were everywhere. It was like what we would see moving along more so in June up here. So it's probably right around the corner for up here. I would definitely think going to open water right away could be the ticket.
Yeah, I'm guessing we're probably a week to 2 weeks ahead of what we normally are. Probably by mid-June, you're going to see hexes on the river chain.
Yeah, especially if those big fish are done and out, and that's kind of, at least as far as I've seen, they'll move out and spend with that stuff faster than the smaller fish, the more active fish. So if you're looking for a bigger bite, that's probably what you're looking for.
So, all right, so let's talk this. In those lakes up there, when you talk a mayfly hatch and you get the little boogers to come up, when you go out there, why don't Pete? Why don't you tell me or tell us why or where you would start looking for them? I mean, I know it's over the mud, but with electronics, how would you go about even finding that?
Yeah, I mean, well, traditionally that water, like on the kind of the north end of the lake, seems to heat up faster. I mean, the sun's coming from the south. So the first thing I do is just, get my electronics fired up and start cruising flats and looking for that fuzzy, response that you get midway in the water column out in that 14 to 12 foot range. And it does move around with wind too day to day, like those mayfly pods, they kind of get pushed around and stuff, and those larvae coming up. But yeah, that 12 to 14 foot range seems to kind of be money, at least on like the darker stained bodies of water with like the big mud flats. So that's kind of where I start to look.
All right. Gus, what about you?
Pretty much the same thing there, but I'm for sure going to go off of, whatever the best weed spots in that lake are, or if I find the greenest weeds and maybe I do a pass there and don't move any fish, I'll probably go off the break line where, it slopes down from the hard bottom to the soft bottom, just as Pete was saying, basically that 12 to 14. I've seen it where it progresses with the mayflies, where you gotta almost check different depth basins, where all of a sudden, like the next day, a slightly deeper basin area of maybe 15 feet is where they're all hatching, and then the day before they're all hatching in like 12 feet. I'll use my electronics to pretty much bounce around. Luckily for myself, and I know Pete and Clayton, we know these areas on, some of these chains and systems. We just kind of go look at them all right away and then just see which ones are kind of, alive that day and kind of go from there.
Well, and I'll just add to that too. Like if if I have the choice, I mean, most of the time we're, fishing leagues and tournaments and things up here that don't allow trolling. If I have a choice to fish any kind of mayfly hatch, it will be 100% trolling because it's the most effective way to put fish in the boat.
Yep.
I mean, just keep your bait down there and cover water and and you can just move so fast and cover so much water that is ideally the best way. I know a lot of guys aren't trollers up here. There's a lot of guys that still hate on trolling, but I'm not one of those guys. I mean, if it works, it works. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing, too. I mean, you guys talk about the hard, soft-bottom transition areas. One of the cool things, though, is with the side scan units now, those are a lot easier to find.
100%.
It's as my grandmother used to say, they stand out like a dick in a cake. She was feisty.
I like her.
Yeah. With the harder the bottom, the brighter the color you get, and you can actually see those lines out there pretty easily, especially if you have a good side scan unit. The one thing I will say is for guys, if you are going out there and you are looking in the open water, and if you're up in that under 12 feet area, if you have a Helix unit or any of the those type units, as far as your the hertz that you have it set on, you can have it on the highest ones. What is the highest one, Pete? Is it like 12 or 10?
It's like 1.275, I think.
Yeah, this is the highest one. But if you get in deeper water, you want to kick those hertz down a little bit. It'll give you a lot clearer picture. And I know that's something a lot of guys struggle with. But if you get into like 20-foot water, hit that check mark. Go to the first one. It's like the 455, and it'll really clear up that water column. And that way you don't have a lot of disturbance and stuff in there. And it just makes for a way, way better picture. So it definitely will help you out. You guys, you and Gus both, Clayton talked a little bit about bigger bucktails. Why do you like the little single-bladed bucktails early? What do you think has to do with that?
I mean, I've been sitting around all winter waiting for muskie season, and you fish on 3 Lakes Eagle River chain. If you just want to get bit, I mean, you're hard pressed not to throw like just a Rizzo tail or something to get bit. But yeah, I mean, just kind of depends on the size of fish that I'm targeting. But generally, this time of year, I'm so itching just put a fish in the boat that just reaching for a small bucktail and get some action going.
Sure. I mean, it's the same thing. I see the same thing too. I mean, there's times when the big baits are working, but actually the one thing I've seen a on the waters that I'm fishing, especially in the summer and fall, there's been a real resurgence in the single bladed bucktail. Getting a lot of fish to go on them. I like a single bladed one, especially if I'm going to reel very fast. If I just want to fish really fast, I like a single bladed one. It's definitely something to it. But
yeah, and there's so many guys throwing double bladed stuff. I think too that I think there's kind of a resurgence in single bladed stuff that the fish don't feel that as much as they feel double bladed stuff anymore. Even like guys that are throwing number 5 MEPs up here, like when they downsize, they're throwing double bladed number 5 MEPs. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So it's kind of one of those things where like guys that are patient enough to, back up a little bit and throw something single bladed, I think it might get the bite once in a while, especially in cold front situation or high pressure situation where those fish are not, super, super bitey, but they might just make a mistake on a single bladed bucktail.
What is your guys' thoughts on glide baits up there? I'll let each one of you talk. Is it something that you guys like or not? Because the glide baits have really been a big bait down, in southern reservoirs, rivers. We throw a ton of glide baits. I don't see them thrown as much up north, but what's your feelings on that, especially early in the season? Gus, you start.
Honestly, I don't think we see it much up here because glide baits just truly take a ton of patience. And
you don't have any?
Struggle. I do, but at the same time, I don't know. I've come around to glide baits now. I just finally bought a good bit this show season. I mean, prior to this show season, I only had a couple phantoms and a couple hellhounds and like one warlock, and that was pretty much it. And really not too many fish under my belt on glides. I'm going to use them a lot more this year because on opener, I'm going to be having 3 other people in the boat. So me in the back, I'll probably just pitch her on a glide bait.
There's going to be 4 of you?
It's going to be 4 of us.
Wear a helmet.
We're going to be covering so much. That's what I mean when we're fishing like 3 different lakes a day, because we're going to be covering unreal amounts of water.
And getting tangled. There's going to be a lot of tangles.
And people with hooks in their back of their heads.
We do pretty good, actually. It's the same crew that I've done 4 in the boat before. I've done 4 in the boat a few other times. Clayton was in the boat a couple times when we've done 4, and it's doable.
Oh.
It just depends on the spot. If you're fishing a really specific spot on one side of the boat, there's always the one person that kind of gets the short end of the stick who's got to chuck out to the abyss. And honestly, actually, a few times that person's been bit before, so it's not always too bad.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll throw a glide. I don't know.
So you're a glide bait. You were not a naysayer, but somebody that just didn't throw them. What did you buy this winter that you think is going to be like, oh yeah, this one?
So one of them for sure is the Conklin pedigree, the one with the little dangly blade on it. I'm really looking forward to that. I know people
technical term.
Yeah, dangly blade.
Okay.
The half moon dangly. Yeah. And
Dingleberry.
I think it'll entice a strike. I mean, it's the time and place thing as well. Just like when I'll use a tube with or without a blade on the back. I think it's the same thing with the glide bait. There's a difference when you want to use like a soft tail, no tail, dangly blade on the back or not.
Dingleberry.
And, that one I'm most looking forward to because I feel like it can pick up a lot more fish, maybe get their attention a little bit more, and maybe might not get the bites all the time, but if we can move them and find them, I mean, that's half the battle right there. And I was going to touch on this before. I think that's also why I like throwing single blades out there. They kind of make a really high-pitched noise in the water. They're really loud, and I feel like they raise a lot of fish too.
So you're saying 50% of the time they work all the time?
Exactly.
Okay, good. Pete, what about you?
Oh, I mean, to be honest, like, I absolutely despise glide baits.
Good. Good.
I mean, I'm a power fisherman through and through. Like, if I can catch a fish ripping rubber or, burning blades, I will do that. I mean, 10 times over throwing a dang glide bait. But I will say this, in the last couple of years, I've become better at throwing glide baits in situations that, like, I can see fish on electronics. I can't move them. I can't do anything with them. I can go back, and if I can't get them to eat a glide bait, which I would say at least half the time I can get them to eat a glide bait, I can come back with a dive and rise and get them to eat a dive and rise after I move them on a glide bait. So, like, if nothing else is working, I will grab a glide bait, and my go-to glide bait is typically a Warlock, either the Magnum or the smaller one. And then I've caught my fair share also on, phantoms, but, I just don't like glide baits. And it's one of those things where it's probably just me. There's plenty of room for fishermen up here to throw them. And I know guys catch them on them. I don't see too many guys doing it, but I think it definitely could be one of those things that might be flying under the radar up here. I just don't spend enough time doing it because I just not my style at all.
Sure. All right,
yep.
Clayton, what about you?
Oh, I'm, I guess a long time ago I used a lot of glide baits and I've caught some of my larger fish on them.
And so you said, I'm not using these no more. Fuck you.
So yeah, perfect reason not to ever use them again.
Exactly.
And, I also don't like using them if I don't have to, but I have kind of learned in the last couple of years now to to go with them when it makes sense. I think they're a great search bait. They're going to find fish. Fish are going to follow them. Fish are going to miss them. And maybe that's one of the reasons why I don't like them so much is I've missed and lost so many fish on them. because the fish try and track them down and they take a swing and miss more often than not. But I am really excited for some, my buddy Nick, our buddy Nick Ambrose with Hammer Customs. He's got some pretty sweet glide baits, and we're working on some other prototypes and different ones that really seem to work well. I've now caught a couple fish on them recently last year. So I'm gaining a little more confidence with them. And I do think that this time of year, it's good if you have multiple people in the boat, somebody could be throwing one at least a good part of the time, just to kind of mix it up a little bit. But it wouldn't be the first thing I would go for by any means, but I really use them from time to time.
I have to say, Nick had the best T-shirt I seen at the PMTT. At the awards. Once I figured out what it said, I was laughing very, very hard. Is that one of his mantras, or where did he buy that too? I mean, that is something that you cannot buy at JCPenney's. Where would you buy that?
I would have to know. Honestly, that guy was so I think he I don't know if he lost all the rest of his clothes or something.
I think he made that.
I think clothes got wet or something. He's like, that's the only shirt I have. And he was all mad and stuff. And
it said Sundays for kissing titties.
Yes.
And I'm like, there you go. That is a shirt. And
imagine if you guys were cashing a check and he was wearing that shirt.
I would love it so much. I would love to see old cross-eyed Stella take that picture. It would make me laugh so hard. Oh, God, that would be great. Oh, man, that makes me laugh. But no, I read the shirt and I'm going, huh. There you go. There you go. Yeah, so, well, let's talk.
Now you know.
Yeah, knowing is half the battle. That's what G.I. Joe taught us.
So I got a question for you, Greg.
Oh, God.
Just being a curious fisherman, and since we were down there, a few weeks ago or whatever, what's the bite like down there? What's the water temp? What do you guys do down there right now to catch fish?
Oh, a lot of prayers. It's water temp is about 70-ish.
Okay.
Day like today, it got up to about 74, and this morning it was around 70, 69, 70. Fish are, the lake is incredibly clear right now. You can see about 8, depending on where you're at. You can see in some areas 5 feet, someplace 12 feet. Super clear. Weeds are decent. There's fish in them, but getting them to hit is really hard. Just starting to pick some fish up, jigging. I'm still fishing up in the rivers and some of the dirtier water, but I think those fish up there, I think a lot of my fish have moved out. So I'm probably going to be finishing that up and just doing main lake stuff. I got 2 more weeks left, and I head north. And but yeah, no, it's starting to see fish move deeper. We've caught them in 25 feet of water, and we've caught them in 4 feet of water. So there's still, like I said, there's still a lot of scattered stuff. A lot of shad, I will say that. There's a lot of bait right now out deeper. It's moving a lot. I know. Just in one day's time, I've noticed the shad and the muskies have moved a ton. So it's a lot of moving around.
Sure. Any big fish being caught?
There's, let me think, some mid 46, 47 is kind of what I've been hearing as far as the biggest. I haven't heard anything over that. There should be, now that the jig and bite and these fish are moving deeper, somebody's going to get a 50-inch fish. They always do. This time of year, fish in the deeper water stuff. That's pretty common. But yeah. But now, lastly, let's talk here quick about Madison. We got the Madison chain coming up. It's going to be the second week of June. I think it's 8th, 9th, or 9th, 10th. It's the whatever that weekend is there. Have you guys heard anything about down there? You know anybody that's been fishing down that way?
I've talked to some people. It's kind of more like 2 weeks ago, though, so it's not very up to date.
Yeah.
And it sounded like a lot of fish were still in the spawn, and I know some people that struggled a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I would assume right now it's probably pretty darn good, if not very close to being really good.
Yeah, it's got to be.
I've heard slow reports.
Yeah.
Slow still?
Slow still, yeah, is what I heard.
Okay.
What about the weed growth? Has anybody heard anything about the weed growth? I would assume it's pretty far along.
Yeah,
I haven't heard anything about weeds.
I heard the weeds were pretty good. I know a guy that was down there last weekend for the local chapter of Muskies Inc. did a youth guiding weekend or something. So he went down there and took out a youth or two or whatever who were muskie fishing. And he's like, well, I don't know if he's ever fished Matson Chain before, but I'm pretty sure he's on what he's saying. He's like, have you ever tried trolling out here? You know, and he's like, there's bait everywhere and there's fish everywhere, but can't get them moving. But yeah, welcome to carp land.
Yeah.
He said the weeds were really good, thick, and really deep already. The bite was kind of slow from what it sounded last weekend, but the weeds were like far along.
Yeah, it's I'm just wondering. I'm just curious. I'm looking forward to getting up there. It's going to be my halfway point in my drive up, so it'll be nice to get out there. But well, guys, we're going to finish up here. Gus, you got anything you want to promote or talk about, or you want to talk about your podcast? You have Muskie on Tap. It's I've been on there, and you're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you for the episode.
Yes. Yes.
You're like top 3, I think.
Oh God, who beat me? Probably.
JVR and Brian Schaefer.
Oh my God! What's because he does? Because Jeff doesn't shut up. He just keeps talking. I mean, good Lord.
You're pretty good at talking too, Greg.
I know. I text with him sometimes. I got carpal tunnel. My thumbs wore out. I can't. That guy's fast.
Oh yeah. Well, if any of the listeners out there want to also listen to a podcast that I co-host with my brother and buddy, that's Muskies on Tap. We've had Gregg on. We've had a whole bunch of guests on, and we'll be talking about an opener preview as well with some other guests. I think we're getting on a Hayward guide and a Green Bay guide to kind of give the word for those areas. And then my guide service is Suggs Fishing Guide Service out of Eagle River, Wisconsin. You can find my website has all the info on there. That's www.suggsfishing.com. So
nice.
Yeah.
All right, Pete.
Yeah, guiding up here. Schedule is filling up, but there's still some openings for the year. You can call me at 715-617-4051, and I am currently working on finally getting my website launched, which is northwoodsmuskie.com. That'll be up real quick here, but it's not up at the moment, so keep checking on that. It'll be up.
Is it like the Red October website that's just a big shark?
I don't know what it is right now, but we're working on it right now.
Nice. All right, Clayton, what about you?
Well, if you want to go zip lining, don't get away because I'm about over that for the year. Hopefully I'll have my boat soon, and yes, still running guide trips this year as full time as possible. I have couple openings kind of towards the end of June, and then July has some scattered stuff, August, September, and whatnot. Give me a call, 715-891-1046, or you can check out my socials, Instagram, YouTube channel. I got some cool content up there from last year, and still putting a few more things up from fall. We're on Facebook. It's This'll Do Outdoor Adventures. And, love to get out in the boat.
Nice. All right. Well, guys, thanks for coming on tonight, and I appreciate most of you.
What does that mean?
Well, just hey, if you have to ask a question, you're guilty. Guys, the one thing I do need to the listeners out there is I need a new theme song. I need something for the podcast when it starts. So I need a theme song. If any of you out there can play a kazoo, a mouth harp, anything, I need a new theme song for the podcast. So,
what?
What
did you say?
A juice harp.
You don't know what juice harp is?
You don't know?
Maybe not.
I
should have just kept my mouth shut.
It is. Yes. It's better. Just like an old teacher used to tell me, better to be thought a fool than to raise your hand and remove all doubt. That's what I learned in school. He was very. I don't know if he was a good teacher, but he made me laugh. No, I need a theme song. So anything, you guys send me some stuff. You can text it to me on that text line. You can email me at battlethebeast@gmail.com. I would love to have something. So
just do the Andy Griffith theme song.
I'd have to whistle.
That'd be a good one.
I can't whistle. I'm not a
good
whistle. No, I'm terrible at it. It's one of the many things I struggle with. And it's one of the ones that hurts me to the core, whistling.
It's okay, Greg. I can't either.
I know. It's just it's like I'm eating constant crackers. All I do is get things wet when I whistle. It's terrible. It's super weird. I don't know. I can't burp either. I invert burp. It's a whole thing.
What?
Yes, it's dumb. I don't understand it. But anyway, I'm sure it's medical.
You should see a GI specialist.
I should see a G.I. Joe specialist. Exactly. That's
what I said.
That's what I need to see. I would, me and Cobra and all that stuff. Guys, thanks for coming on here tonight. I'm going to tell people, if you are going up in the Northwoods this weekend, and you don't catch anything, feel free to write on all these guys' social media how horrible of information that they gave you. And that would make me laugh. And tag the podcast. That would be wonderful, too, because then I would be able to find it and laugh some more. So, all right, guys. Hey, you guys have a good night. Have a good weekend this weekend. I'll see you guys in a few weeks up in Madison.
All right. Sounds good, Greg. Thanks.
See you. Bye.
Thanks, Greg. Bye.